So, big news today. There has been an SC2 patch that's been announced. Actually, I knew about this yesterday. I saw it on Twitter on the train on the way to the GSL Super Tournament. I only had time to go through the first few bits of the patch notes, and then I, of course, had to go actually cast the Super Tournament Finals. Amazing finals. Definitely check that out if you haven't seen it already. It was the last major tournament for Starcraft 2 with a Freaka TV, obviously for the GSL for 2022 before we move on into 2023. Before we go into these patch notes, if you like this shirt, a Doom-inspired shirt, or you want any kind of cool StarCraft or other competitive gaming merchandise, go to tastelessthreads.com. We've got a lot of cool designs that I'm personally very proud of. Stuff that is subtle, I think hip. You could wear it out. You'd look good if somebody knew that you were a gamer, or not. You'd still look like you were styling. So check that out. StarCraft 2 5.0.11 PTR patch notes. Santaro Adun, we are excited to push patch 5.0.11 to PTR, which features various amounts of balance, bug fixes, and quality of life improvements done by our community members. Before I go into the nitty-gritty, this is very exciting. Obviously, Blizzard has been in shambles for like 2 years now, maybe even 3 years. At this point in time, I literally know one person at Blizzard. I used to know over 100 and work with them very closely. So the fact that they have a team of people that is working on the game, and of course we've been in the same patch for a while now, and frankly been in the meta for this current meta because of that patch for a while now. So this is a very welcome thing. This is exciting. I think a lot of this has to do with the Blizzard, being acquired by Microsoft. It's going to be probably even a year or more before they fully moved all the pieces around and it's functioning the way Microsoft sees fit. But again, the fact that they're giving some love to the game, the fact that as we go into 2023, we're going to have a very different looking StarCraft 2. It's a very, very welcome thing. So props to Blizzard and Microsoft for that. So starting with Zerg, the Creep Tumor cooldown increased from 11 to 13 seconds. Sight range reduced from 11 to 10. So one thing to note is that the Creep Tumor can see a little bit over the creep, which I think is probably not necessary. I've talked about this in previous videos. I feel like the fact that Zerg can get so much vision so easily and pave the map with something that makes them faster, as well as giving them vision, is already kind of busted. So I think the sight range reduce is welcome. And of course, just reducing the rate at which creep can proliferate on the map, certainly a welcome thing. I think we can all agree, by the way, Zerg in StarCraft 2, certainly the most successful race. Certainly the race with the most wins, the race with the most best players. So, some things need to change for Zerg, and I do think Terran and Protos need to have some buffs or some changes, so we'll be exploring that in these patch notes. Hatchery, Layer, and Hive. Creep spread interval decreased from 0.03 to 0.25, okay. Sight range increased from 10, 11 to 12 to 12. So, I don't think that this has to be the case. So the hatchery doesn't see as far as the creep goes, and that's why we've had some spine crawlers that can be put outside of vision range of the hatchery. Guess that's gone. Obviously, that only impacts Zerg versus Zerg. I guess you would see a drop maybe coming into your base a little bit sooner on some circumstances, but really this seems to be related to Z versus Z. Not that we even had that many spine crawler rushes, but whatever. Welcome change. Viper added a 0.71 second cast finish time to abduct. Yeah, that makes sense. Viper could harpoon more than one unit at once, which is kind of a silly ability. It's easy to forget because you cast so many games, or I guess if you guys watch so many games, but probably better to have abilities like that spaced out. I think in general in StarCraft 2, there's a little bit too much of everything happening right at once. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody can get behind that. Obviously, Zerg gonna have to have a little bit more pacing now when they try to like pull tanks into range of Hydras and stuff like that. The Ultralisk has been reduced to 12.5%. Increased range slop. Slop? Am I reading this right? Increased range slop from 1 to 1.4. Range target can move before being missed. All right, I think that's good. I guess we're going to have a little bit more of a manlet Ultralisk. But, that's probably going to be better to kind of have that as you navigate it through the through fights and everything like that. I guess another good change. Hydralisk, muscular augments, move speed bonus. Muscular augments, move speed bonus increased from 0.79 to 1.05. So I think that's probably good. A lot of times Hydralisks can never retreat. By the way, damage point reduced from 0.15 to 0.1. Okay, so, Hydras do have a little bit of a tougher time retreating. So I guess they're going to be a little bit more nimble. I'd be curious to see what exactly is a specific unit they can outrun, but, as good as Zerg is on creep, sometimes they do have big problems off creep, so maybe this will kind of even that playing field. The Broodlord move speed, this is big, increased from 1.97 to 2.3. I guess we should also mention the Broodling, since that's part of the unit here. Duration reduced from 5.71 3.57. So the Broodlord is faster, but the Broodling is not out for as long. So the Broodlord, excuse me, it's an extremely powerful unit in that it can kind of push through anything, and it's almost impossible to push into, but in all the games I've casted, if you're going to beat somebody with Broodlords, you basically just run around them. I mean, they are, I think, literally the slowest unit in the game. Am I correct about that, chat? Is a Thor faster than a Broodlord? I'm not sure, but I guess a Thor you can at least scoop up with a medevac. But yeah, Broodlord's incredibly slow. This will make it so that the Broodling's not as much of a menace in high numbers, so it can actually kind of move around the map. Is it faster than a Viking? I don't think so, chat. But the truth is that the Broodlord is it's going to be definitely changed. Now it can actually, come back and defend, but at the same time, it's not going to be such a unit that I guess has to be avoided like it was before, because the Broodlings are just not going to be out. We've all seen when you have like 7 or 8 Broodlords, the number of Broodlings that can basically populate a fight is kind of insane. And, if you want to check out, what you can get away with Broodlords, I would check out the Dark versus, I think it was Cure, Game 2. I called it the inverse ZVT, but we're not going to have games like that anymore. A little bit of a spoiler here. Dark basically lets Terran mine out more of the map than the Zerg, and just relies on the Broodlords basically staying back and getting way more value than you would expect. So it was a crazy game, but I think this is a welcome change here. Ravager build time increased from 8.6 to 12.9 seconds. This could have a lot of impacts in fights. I mean, we've seen it when Zerg's defending or attacking, where they'll take the injured Roach, morph that into a Ravager, and a lot of times before the fight is even close to being done, you've already seen a Ravager's out. Of course, when you morph a damaged Roach into a Ravager, it does come back with full health. So I think this is kind of a momentum nerf here. If you're defending, you can't just kind of rely on timing out Ravagers as easily, nor can you if you're trying to snowball a fight. Again, I think another cool adjustment. I think we're going to have to wait and see actual games, like in GSL and other tournaments, before we have a real idea of what that's going to look like. But, it does seem to be a very good change. By the way, a lot of these patch notes not influenced. I think Blizzard was directly consulting with pro gamers. So I would be surprised how much complaints you're going to see from pro gamers right away with this. No doubt pro gamers will find something to complain about as the game goes on. But I think these are all very cool changes, and I'm really glad Blizzard is talking to pros and getting feedback from them. So the shield battery overcharge recharge rate reduced from 200% to 150%. I think this is how quickly the battery heals the unit. This is an oddly phrased sentence. I believe this is how fast a battery can regen the unit's shields. And I guess it was already at 2. It's kind of weird reading it because it says from 200 to 150. So I guess there'll be a slight reduction. So I guess you won't have as much sustain on some bases. You'll still be able to regen your units. You'll still have a little bit of sustain, but nowhere near as much as you had before. Observer, the movement speed. This is a pretty minor movement speed. Increased from 2.63 to 2.82. So you'll be able to get your Observer, I guess, out a little bit more quickly. I don't feel like you're going to have that much help getting away from stimmed Marines, but not a bad change. This is probably bigger, though. The model size is going to be increased, which would mean the blur is going to be increased. So it's going to be easier to see. I almost feel like that's going to be rougher for Protoss. You know, Observers pretty much die the moment that you see them, so you're going to have to be a lot more careful with Observers with that. Yeah, a little bit of a chunkier Observer. The Archon can now fit between single gap walls. That is huge. We no longer have to recall our Archons into the main to save it. But it is still, the collision size with other units is unaffected. So the Archon's going to have a little girdle on, so he can get in between the buildings. That's actually big. I'm actually surprised we didn't have that fixed earlier when you think about it. The fact that Protoss has to wall everything off all the time, and then Archons can get stuck outside of stuff, that's going to be a big help for Protoss. A big quality of life upgrade as well here. Templar movement speed increased from 2.63 to 2.82. I guess that keeps it with your army. I kind of like that the Templar had to, like, kind of lagged behind. I guess we'll see what happens with that. So minor change there. Disruptor. Purifier orb radius reduced from 1.5 to 1.35. So the Disruptor, not going to be as devastating. This is going to be definitely helpful for Terrans and Roach Ravager Zergs. But against Protoss in general, you know, one thing, this wouldn't be such a big deal if it wasn't for the fact that the AI so readily bunches everything together. You know, in StarCraft 1, there's a little bit... units organically space themselves. It is because it is an archaic interface that it's operating on, but in StarCraft 2, it's like everything is kind of tangled together. So, you know, the disruptor shots are extremely devastating, and it's kind of hard to deal with because you have to manually separate a lot of your units. I guess we'll see that play out in tournaments. I have a hard time visualizing a reduction from 1.5 to 1.35. It should be, I guess, a little bit smaller. Hard for me to wrap my brain around that. Carrier interceptor shields reduced from 40 to 30. Interceptor attack priority reduced from 20 to 19. So it seems like the carrier is going to be maybe less of a thing. To be honest, a lot of these... And look, this is me as a caster. I don't know how you guys feel as a spectator, but I'm not a fan of a lot of these games where Protoss turtles and kind of accumulates carriers. It does seem to be kind of slow and not as exciting. Meaning you can't A-move carriers before targeting... okay, interest. Before targeting interceptor. Lower priority than the carrier when being attacked. Oh, interesting. Okay. That makes more sense. Thank you, chat. Sentry. Build time reduced from 26.4 to 22.9 seconds. Probably be able to scout a little bit better with Hallucinate. A little bit earlier, I guess. Maybe if you want to try to warp a Sentry in for a force field or something like that. You know, some of these rushes that Protoss just barely doesn't die to. We'll see how that plays out exactly. I mean, I think it's a welcome change. This one is huge, by the way, the Forge. Okay, so level 1 upgrades. Level 1 upgrades research time reduced by 7 seconds. Level 2 upgrades research time reduced by 9 seconds. Level 3 upgrades research time reduced by 11 seconds. This is probably going to have a big impact on PvZ, especially. You know, we have a lot of these timing attacks in general from Protoss that don't... It does feel like when you watch a lot of Protoss games, minus maybe Hero, it's a lot of failed timing attacks. I think you guys would agree with that. It seems like just giving Protoss a little bit of a buff or a little bit of an earlier moment to have these upgrades is going to allow them to have more opportunities to kind of come in and disarm the Zerg. Terran as well, but I do think this is more of a PvZ patch here. That's pretty big to have it reduced by 7 and then 9 and then 11. We've had too many games where I think Protoss just kind of falls flat or has to have the most ingenious cheese ever, and even then it doesn't seem to work that often. It just seems like nowadays Zerg has become very good at defending, and the Protoss is having to bend itself into a pretzel to get anything done. So, I mean, I think this is great. I think especially this Forge upgrade. That's going to be interesting to see how that changes the game a bit. 7 seconds is a lot, by the way, in StarCraft time. G5 says Protoss felt mostly timing attack based since the beginning of SE2. I agree with that, G5. And I think this is going to kind of lean into that. I think some of these Zerg nerfs as well, just going back up here, You know, the Ravager, the build time is going to be slowed down. Even the reduction of sight on the Creep Tumor, all that. I think that's pretty cool. Glaive Adept with +1, I think absolutely VHT. The Ghost, enhanced shockwaves upgrade removed, but the base EMP radius has been increased from 1.5 to 1.75. Steady targeting is canceled if the target moves if the target moves more than 13.5 range away from the Ghost while casting. The casting range is 10. Well, that's, I think, definitely welcome. I think there was definitely moments where Zerg would try to attack in and be so punished by the ridiculousness of a Ghost being able to just snipe it from such a distance. This is going to make turtling, a punishing turtling player, it's going to be a little bit tougher here for the Zerg. For the Terran. I think the Zerg is going to be a little bit happier with this. So, nerf on the Ghost. That's exciting. For the Banshee, Hyperflight rotors upgrade time reduced from 121 seconds to 100 seconds. Hyperflight rotors cost reduced from 150 to 125, 125. Okay. Banshee buff. We'll probably be seeing a little bit more with the Banshees. A little bit more of the Banshees down the road here. It is funny, though. Sometimes you'll see these changes, and you'll think it's going to change the way the game looks, and sometimes it doesn't change that much. Cyclone Mag Field Accelerator damage bonus changed from 20 plus versus armor to 10 plus versus all. Okay. So it's going to be a little bit less about just trying to counter an armored unit, and instead it might have more of a role in general. We'll see how much more the Cyclone's used outside of Gumiho doing weird stuff in games with him, and then maybe losing the game. But yeah, this may change a little bit of the role of the Cyclone early on. Sensor Tower radar range reduced from 30 to 27. I mean, the Sensor Tower is so good. It's a little bit insane. I welcome the Sensor Tower reduction. I've never been a huge fan of the Sensor Tower. I always felt like this was something that an RTS game designer would like, but if you play a lot, it's not as, I don't know, it kind of limits a lot of the stuff you can do, but I think that's a completely fine reduction there. And the Raven, oh my god, the Raven's getting a total makeover. The Raven, we're going to cut the pigtails off and take the overalls with paint on it. It's going to be a totally beautiful new prom queen Raven here. Gas cost reduced from 200 to 150. This could be big in TVT. Build time reduced from 43 seconds to 30 seconds. That's a huge reduction. Starting energy increased from 50 to 75. Wow. Interference matrix duration reduced from 11 to 5 seconds. Anti-armor missile reduction reduced from 3 to 2. That's kind of huge. Probably still be used a decent amount. Corvin reactor upgrade removed. I guess that makes sense if it starts with more energy. Obviously, it can't bank as much energy now. Auto turret energy cost increased from 50 to 75. So the Raven is going to be out in games more quickly and basically have a lot more energy to do more stuff, a lot less time. You know, the Raven was a unit besides auto turret, I guess, where you would have to sit around before you could do a whole lot with it to kind of bank up energy. I'm very interested in TVT and how that's going to change the way TVT looks. Ravens are used so much in TVT, and so many games in TVT are won right away with Ravens. We've had a lot of games in TVT that end on 2 or 3 bases. So I think this is a welcome change. I don't know. I mean, you can see this is a total rework, as it says here, by the Ravens. So that's going to be interesting. So these are a lot of bugs and quality of life changes. I see they fixed the Adept. There was issues with binding other Adepts in groups. I'm sure pro gamers didn't struggle with that after adjusting. A lot of this stuff will also help newer players, too. As much as, you know, I guess when StarCraft 2 is compared to StarCraft 1, StarCraft 2 is kind of viewed as the clean, mechanically pure game. There's actually a lot of bugs in it, so this should clean up a lot. Mutalisk fixed an issue where the Mutalisk attack launch sound would play each time an attack bounced. Oh, that's funny. There's a lot of stuff in here. I don't know if you guys noticed. I certainly didn't. Stasis Ward. Attack priority increased from 10 to 20. Units affected by stasis can be issued any non-build commands instead of only move commands to be acted upon. Okay, that's interesting. So you could tell your units to attack certain units while in stasis. Steady snipe can be manually canceled. That's big. Fix an issue where liberators could not be given certain orders immediately after being ordered to unsiege. Oh, interesting. So a lot of this is kind of UI cleanup stuff, AI cleanup stuff. Fixed an issue where Zergling could not receive queued morph to Baneling commands. Oh, okay. If you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to join me on Twitch. I'm usually streaming in the afternoons on weekdays, generally Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. KST. Sometimes I stream a little bit later in the day if I do have other games that I'm playing, which I'll probably will be doing now that I don't have any casting for the rest of the year. And let me know what you think of the patch notes in the comments section. And let me know if you want to see more content like this. We're going to try to have a video or a short uploaded every day. And also, as Stormgate gets closer and closer to its release, this is going to be the channel you want to be at. We're going to have games casted. I'm going to be uploading my own games that I'm going to be playing. We're going to be talking about different strategies. I'll be hosting events on my Twitch channel, which will also be uploaded to YouTube. So you want to be here for that as we continue the legacy of RTS on into the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in a future video.